So now we know how to determine manner, cause, and mechanism of death. How do we determine the time of death, TOD? So there are 3 different methods used to determine time of death. You have to pretty much use all 3 together to get a really accurate picture of the time of death. Using just one of them would not be adequate. So we have livor mortis. Notice it's not liver spelled like the organ. Rigor mortis. And algor mortis. So livor mortis is death color, rigor mortis is death stiffness, and algor mortis is death heat. We're going to talk about livor mortis first. Also, there's another way to determine or to state time of death. You can say post-mortem interval, basically between when the body was actually deceased versus when it was found. You backtrack, you determine time of death. So you can also say PMI, post-mortem interval, instead of TOD, time of death. Okay, livor mortis, death color. So basically, livor mortis is caused by gravity. So after you die, your blood stops circulating. The blood then pools into the tissue, which is lowest to the ground. The pull of gravity pulls it downwards. So livor mortis is also called lividity. It causes the skin to turn a reddish purple color from that blood pooling. So this person's is on their back. Same thing here. You can see that reddish purplish color. Some people think it's bruising. Not necessarily. There could be bruising there. This is just because the blood leaves this area and starts to pool downwards because it's no longer circulating. It's just sitting. So livor mortis begins about 20 minutes to 3 hours after death, depending on the conditions, and it becomes fixed after 8 hours. So initially, within that first couple of hours, you can actually press lividity out of the skin, if you will. So if you apply pressure to a place where lividity has happened, it'll push the blood away and you'll see a paleness. That's how you can kind of determine if lividity is fixed or not yet. If you have different lividity patterns, this can also indicate that the body was moved after death, but before it is fully fixed. It's called dual lividity. So for example, if a person has lividity on their back, and they also have lividity on their stomach, you can't be in 2 places that are opposite ends of the body unless it's been moved. So you would assume that the body was kept in one position for 2 hours, say on their back, and then they were flipped over to try to cover up the death or whatever to a new position. So that can give crime scene investigators some idea of what actually happened, if the body was moved or not. Also, lividity will not occur in areas where the body is restricted by clothing or objects being pressed against the skin. So for example, this person was laying on their stomach. So lividity is in their legs, which were closest to the floor. You can see areas where there was pressure from maybe an object or just whatever was underneath them that the lividity did not set in, but other places it did. So all good clues that help you determine if the body was moved or how it was laying or placed at the time of death. The environmental temperature and the rate of body temperature decline after death must also be considered in lividity. So if you have a corpse that's left outside on a hot day, livor mortis will progress faster. So you have to take that into consideration when determining time of death. If you have a corpse left in a cool room, lividity will progress slower. And you also have to consider the person. If someone is very anemic or they had a massive loss of blood during their death, lividity may not occur for either of those reasons. So you have to consider everything when thinking about lividity and livor mortis. So just like you had to determine in a worksheet manner, mechanism, cause of death, you're also going to have a worksheet with livor mortis examples, and you're going to try to determine when did the person die based on the livor mortis information. So just a couple examples. If all discoloration is on the front of the body, that means the person was lying face down. If you have discoloration on many parts of the body, especially front versus back or side versus front or whatever, you can assume that the body was moved. If a corpse is laying on its back with its legs extended, like in this picture, then you should see lividity on the backs of the arms, the back, the buttocks, and the legs. If you see it on the feet, the bottom of the feet, that means that they were put in such a position that they were sitting or standing with obviously assistance, and then they were moved. So just look for where lividity has occurred. It doesn't make sense if they were just laying in that position or were they moved.